So none of you woke up at 5 o'clock to listen to the radio show. How many of you might catch it on westernbass.com or anglerboys.com, some of those web pages? All right, well, that's better. Well, we do a 1-hour radio show out of Sacramento called Ultimate Bass. We cover really the West, but we go throughout the country and talk to different anglers and some of the top pros. We've had a few guys you might recognize on the air. We've had Mike Iaconelli, Kevin Van Dam, Shaw Grigsby, Gary Klein, Skeet Reese, Aaron Martin, Ish Monroe. We get a few of the guys to call in every week and talk to them. If you haven't caught the show, make sure you check it out. It's on 1140 a.m. and you guys do get it down here in the Bay Area without a problem. It's a 50,000 watt station that comes in. But if you miss it, get on westernbass.com and you can pick that up on the radio pages. You see the goofy looking guy at the top of the bleachers? Wave at us, Tony. Tony Stoltz of westernbass.com as well. Tony, if you guys check out the forum pages of Western Bass. Tony filming this for the television pages for Western Bass as well. We've done several of my seminars. Gary Dobbins, Dave Rush, Tony Franceschi, Andre Moore, Bub Tosh did a swim bait seminar the other day that will be up there soon. So check it out. If you leave here and you go, man, what was he talking about or what did I miss? Check it out on westernbass.com on their television pages. A lot of great information out there to help you catch more fish. It's all right here in the West. We're not talking about Florida or Texas or Lake Fork or all those places that most of us don't get a chance to fish. Well, I've been doing this silly game for a long time. I guess I started fishing tournaments in about 1979 or 1980. I had an opportunity to have a boat at a pretty young age. Had great support from my parents, and had an opportunity to make a living fishing. And a lot of you think it's a really glamorous deal, and it's a lot of fun. And the fun part is there, and you get to meet a lot of great people and fish with a lot of friends. And you do get to see a lot of great things on the water and fish awesome fisheries. My friends, guys like Gary Dobbins and Phil Strader and Gary Howell, those guys, they launched their boats at Lake Shasta this morning for the final day of the String Series tournament. Gary Dobbins on my radio show this morning told me it was 21 degrees. Phil Strader was prying the compartments open on the back of the bassfan.com boat, trying to get his battery charger cord out of there to get it unplugged. It was a little chilly, let's talk about, okay? But we're going to talk a little bit about bass fishing, and that's not the glamorous part, okay? 21 degrees fishing Lake Shasta. There's no glamour in that, guys. There will be this afternoon when they hand those checks out to those guys, but when we start fishing, it's all about fishing. And a lot of you are bass fishermen for the same reason I'm a bass fisherman, because trout fishing is boring, okay? And salmon only run up the river for 3 months out of the year. And anyone can dunk a sardine for a striper. So that's why a lot of us are bass fishing. And that's what we want to talk about. We're going to run through some techniques. Some of the stuff we do on tour, some of the stuff that maybe you're fishing with, and a lot of the stuff that you've grown up fishing with, you're going to see how it has grown, and we've adapted, and we've done some of the things with it. I want to start out today talking a little bit about spinnerbait fishing, because I think probably as a bass angler, every one of us has a spinnerbait in our tackle box. There's probably a few of you out here that has a spinnerbait that stays in your tackle box because you hate fishing these things. You have zero confidence in a spinnerbait. I always have a few of you with me. Thank you for coming. You know, I hate throwing this thing because it doesn't look like anything, and I just throw it out there and reel it back. Well, that's any bait in your tackle box. One of the biggest things you can have is confidence. A spinnerbait for me is a bait that I spend a lot of time covering water with. I cover a lot of water with this bait, and I can fish a lot of different water columns with this bait by just varying my retrieve. This is a Persuader spinnerbait, and it's kind of a cool deal. It's got a little electrical bead chip on this spinnerbait. As you pump it, it actually emits an electric shock wave that's very similar to those that shad minnows will let go when they're being chased, about to lose their lunch money. Okay, so kind of a cool deal throwing a spinnerbait. You do kind of pump it when you start it. But the nice part about a spinnerbait is I'm just fishing that spinnerbait fairly shallow near the surface. You guys watch Jimmy Houston on TV. You notice that every time Jimmy Houston catches a spinnerbait fish, it's right on the surface, and it turns green, and you go, oh, God, I got to go fishing this weekend, right? That happens about 3 days a year. Okay? The rest of the time, we got to slow that spinnerbait down. We're fishing that spinnerbait down out of sight a little bit. Maybe slow rolling it. Maybe I'm fishing a 3/4 or 1 ounce spinnerbait, and I'm trying to fish it down there 10, 15 feet of water. And it goes thump. That's all the bite is. Those days when you can burn them along the surface and you watch the fish boil on them, there's nothing more fun than that. That is awesome fishing. But it doesn't really happen all that much. Hey, how many of you with us today own a bait casting rod and reel? How many of you have one of these things? How many of you hate these things? Come on. Who never gets a backlash? Yeah, we always have. There's usually always one guy in the crowd that goes, I don't. Liar. No. Believe me, I fished with skeet reefs, and I've seen skeet reefs do this. Okay? Don't let them kid you. You know, the reason you see a lot of us throwing bait casters and why you'll see so many of them on the decks of our boats or up here with us when we're doing seminars, for one, when I'm fishing a spinnerbait, I'm fishing heavy line. And it's pretty hard to cast 15, 17, 20-pound cast line on a spinning reel that's got a spool that big. You get about 8 yards of line on there. So I fish very heavy line when I'm fishing these baits. It's a reaction bait. It's not a bait I'm feeling along the bottom. It's not a jig or a plastic worm. I'm reeling this bait back to me. As I'm reeling this bait back to me, it's a reaction strike. It's also, this last couple of feet of line is what takes all the abuse. It's what gets shredded, it's what goes past the logs, trees, rocks, everything else. The other very important part to fishing a bait casting reel is lure presentation. When I'm throwing this bait, it's lure presentation. And let's say we're fishing the delta, and we're trying to fish that spinnerbait in that little section of open water between the rocks and the weed line. Maybe that big, maybe it's, 6, 8, 10 feet wide. But those fish are living behind the rocks and the weed beds. So, if I'm taking this rod with an overhand cast, and that fish is up there in about that much water, I'm probably going to spook him. Real hard to do an underhand pitch cast with a spinning rod. But I can take this with a bait casting rod and reel, and I can lay that bait up there and make a soft presentation with it. And as soon as that bait hits the water, I've got it moving back to me. So if a fish is in a foot or two of water, he's right there behind that weed bed, he'll eat it. Maybe I'm at Clear Lake and I'm trying to fish that bait up underneath the back of a boat dock. I'm trying to fish under the shade pocket of a boat dock. I can pitch it back there. You'll notice the rod that I'm fishing is a little different color probably than any fishing rod any of you have in your boat, or at least a few of you. Some of you might have some old rods this color. This rod's not graphite, it's fiberglass. This is an SR 705 from Lamaglass. The SR part stands for skate reefs. Skate designed this rod for Lamaglass. That's why we have to have it this goofy damn color, so it matches his hair, his shirt, his boat, and now his Hummer. Okay? Skate's making way too much money, you guys. All right? But that's why we have this rod in the yellow color. It's easy to spot on the rack. It's easy to spot on the front deck of somebody's boat. It's easy to spot in someone's hand. But that's exactly what that is the yellow SR rod. But the reason I use a fiberglass rod, see, I'm kind of like Skeet too. My hair is two colors, brown and gray. Skeet's is just two different colors, okay? But the reason I'm using fiberglass is when I'm fishing these spinnerbaits along the bottom and reeling them back, a fiberglass rod will load up and stay loaded. A graphite rod has a tendency to load up and snap back. I hit that fish on a graphite rod, they'll load up and snap back. A lot of anglers still fish graphite with their reaction baits. There's still a few of us diehards still throwing fiberglass out there. All my reaction baits, and we'll talk about topwater fishing, we'll talk about some crankbait fishing, some jerkbait fishing. All those baits I'm throwing on fiberglass. Got a fairly soft tip to it. Anytime you walk into a tackle store, there's a ton of spinnerbaits in different colors. There's, there's chartreuse and blue, the reds, the blacks, the white, chartreuse and white. There's so many different colors out there. How do you choose which spinnerbait you want? Well, try to keep it basic. When I fish, I try to keep my spinnerbait deal in 4 or 5 colors. When I'm fishing in the springtime, I'm normally throwing a spinnerbait with painted blades on it, so they're colored, either white or chartreuse with a chartreuse and white skirt. And if I'm also fishing Clear Lake or some of those places, I'm usually fishing a little heavier spinnerbait, 3/4, even up to a 1 ounce spinnerbait. As the water clears up, getting a little farther into the spring and closer to summer, I'll throw more of my shad pattern spinnerbaits, my lighter spinnerbaits, solid white with a nickel or a gold blade. And then as we get in a little bit later in the year, in the springtime, and the fish are running a lot of bait fish, that's when I scale it back. A lot of times I throw a single spin bait with one willow leaf and really mostly all of my shad colors. A couple things I look for in a spinnerbait, and when you're looking in a tackle store, you want to look at these things. One, I want a big hook. I want a 5/0 hook in this spinnerbait. You give me a spinnerbait with a 3/0 hook, and especially if I put a trailer on it at all, I'm going to take all the bite out of this hook. I'm going to wind up losing a bunch of fish. The other thing that I'm doing with my spinnerbait is I want soft, flexible wire. You know what? A 2-pounder eats a spinnerbait, he gets it. No big deal. A 7, an 8, a 9, a 10-pounder eats a spinnerbait, he gets it too, but the problem is he gets the whole bait. And when they eat the whole bait on a big fish, if that wire doesn't compress down a little bit, you'll wind up deflecting that strike and you'll lose a lot of those fish. So very important. I want a spinnerbait with some flexible wire. A lot of good ones out there. The one I just particularly have been throwing a little bit and playing with are the Persuaders, and they are available here at the show. This is one of the baits that I'm going to fish throughout the spring. I'm going to back away from it in the summertime a lot on our reservoirs, whether I'm fishing for spotted bass at Lake Oroville or Shasta or Folsom or Collins or I'm fishing for largemouth in Clear Lake or the Delta. It's a bait I'm going to fish a lot in the spring, but it's also a bait that I'll back away from in the summer, but I'll go back to fishing it a lot in the fall. In the summer, I think there's better baits to get a bite on. You know, I love asking this question, especially when we have a large group, because you guys will be surprised how many people answer this question honestly. How many of you with us today have ever caught a bass deeper than 40 feet of water? The percentage of people with their hands up, pretty low. How many of you have ever caught a bass on a top water bait? A lot more hands go up, don't they? How many of you wandered in here because you thought it was the auto show? Just wondered. Well, yeah, none of you listened to my radio show this morning, apparently, and you know, none of you have ever caught a bass on a top water lure. We're going to get to that. The reason I ask how many have ever caught a bass in deeper than 40 feet of water is because it is a depth that most bass anglers absolutely vapor lock when we start talking about fishing deep water. We start talking about fishing deep water with a jig or a plastic worm, and a lot of bass anglers, absolutely, it doesn't work for them. Okay? Because as bass fishermen, you see that I let Tony Stoltz borrow my reel for one cast. Man. All right, maybe I didn't let Tony borrow my reel. We start talking about fishing deep water, bass fishermen vapor lock. I asked how many of you have caught one on a top water bait, and the reason why is that's probably why most of you are bass fishermen. Because it happened on a hula popper or a jitterbug or a buzzbait or a Zara spook or a little popper or something that the fish blew up on the surface. Up until that point, you were probably a fisherman that fished for everything. And then something blew up one day on a top water bait, and you went, "Whoa, I'm hooked. I'm hooked." $45,000 later, you own a boat, another 40 grand, you got a Super Duty to tow the damn thing with. Yeah, I know. I read the book, okay? I know the deal. Now, we start talking about deep water fishing. Believe me, if the first bite you ever got, or the only bite you ever got bass fishing, was on a dart head or a drop shot, 40 foot of water underneath the boat, watched them on your Lowrance, and they went, "Dink." You guys would probably still be trolling for stripers, right? But now we're bass fishermen because we've had that topwater bite. But there are months of the year that we won't get a topwater bite. We got to go down after them, and those fish live in deep water. Deepest bass I've ever caught in my life, Lake Shasta, 125 feet of water on a jig and spoon. This Tuesday, I filmed a television show with Justin Wolf up on Lake Oroville. It'll air next Saturday on Comcast on a show called True Bass that Galaxy Marine sponsors. And Justin and I focused all day fishing 35 to 65 feet to show the anglers where those fish really are in the wintertime. It was cold, and we caught fish on a lot of different techniques. My favorite bait to fish in deep water is a jig, okay? Most of you have a jig in your tackle box that you tie on your flipping stick and you go to the Delta or you go to Clear Lake with. Now this jig probably weighs 3/8 to a half an ounce. It's got a great big 5/0 hook in it. It's got a big brush weed guard on it. You got it on your flip stick and you use it for punching down through the middle of trees or tules, and you fish that down at the Delta or Clear Lake. That's a great jig, but that's not my deep water jig, okay? This is a very, very light jig, usually 3/8 to half, maybe 5/8 of an ounce for a flipping jig. A few guys are getting into flipping the bigger weights, but for the most part, it's like a half-ounce head. Really just a cousin to my deep water jig. My deep water jig, this is a Bass Patrol jig. It's a football head jig, okay? Football style jig. It does have a much lighter weed guard on it and a 4/0 light wire hook. Because I'm fishing this jig 35, 40, 50, 60, 70 feet of water, that big hook, when I set the hook on that fish, I'll never penetrate it. I'll never drive a 5/0 into that fish in deep water, especially throwing 10 or 12 pound test line. Small diameter 4/0 eats it, I'm going to stick him and penetrate him. Okay, I'm going to be able to hook that fish. All right. We're going to go fishing, guys. You got to bear with me. We're all going to get in the boat. It's going to be a little bit crowded, okay? But we're going to go fishing right now. And I'm going to take you to my favorite spotted bass lake. Maybe it's my home lake Folsom. Maybe we're going to Orville. Maybe we're going to Shasta. We're going to go fish for spotted bass this morning. And we're going to go concentrate on fishing deep. And we're going to roll that Triton up on our first spot. We're going to shut the boat down. I'm going to drop my trolling motor down. I'm going to reach down. I'm going to hand you this fishing rod right here. It's got a 3/4 ounce Bass Patrol jig on it, and you are going to grab that, and you are so excited, you're so ready to learn how to deep water jig fish, you're going to step on the back deck of my boat and do this. And you're going to cast that thing somewhere down past the Fisherman's Warehouse booth. And you're going to go, see how far I threw it, man? Out of backlash. You go, yeah, saw that. And I'm going to take my same jig rod that I've got for the 3/4 ounce jig, and I'm going to do this off the bow of the boat. Who's going to be able to feel that jig better? You with 60 yards of line out trying to fish it back to 40 feet of water, or me in direct contact with it right underneath my boat? That's what I'm doing with it. Pick it up, set it back down. Pick it up, set it back down. And I'm going to drag this jig with my electric trolling motor. I run a 109-pound thrust motor guide trolling motor, but I keep the variable speed down real low. When I'm fishing like this, and I can just drag that jig, keep it in contact with the bottom. Pick it up, set it down. Pick it up, set it down. I feel that jig. The bite you'll feel in deep water is just like that flipping bite we were talking about. You drag it along and it'll go, thunk. Swing, you got them. Very easy. I mean, it is a super, super easy technique to do. The other thing you're going to get into, though, and how many of you, and I don't want you guys pointing at your fishing partners, okay? But how many of you have been out there fishing when you're throwing a jig or a plastic worm along and your partner does this? And what are you doing? I got a bite. Lake Havasu, Lake Shasta, Lake Orville, Lake Mead, the California Delta, Clear Lake, the Columbia River. I don't care where you're fishing. Never will you catch a bass with hands. They don't swim over on top of your jig and pick it up. When you pick that jig up and you feel a little bit of added weight, guess where he's got it? Got it in his mouth. Set the hook where you got him. How many of you been in a tug of war and then realize, oops, that was a bite? That's what happened, okay? You pick that jig up, it weighs 3/4 of an ounce. Pick it up again, it weighs 3/4 of an ounce. Third time I picked it up, it weighs 1.5 ounces. Set the hook, okay? Now on our fishing trip, after I convinced you not to show me how far you could throw that 3/4 ounce jig off the back of my boat, the next thing I'm going to tell you to do is slow down. Slow down. It's winter. Slow down, slow down, slow down. And the only thing you're going to say back to me from the back of the boat is, I am. All right? I've done this. Trust me. I fish pro-ams. Slow down. And you know what's going to happen? You're going to be doing one of these. Man, I don't know how it goes that deep. You're going to chew it off, okay? One of those deals. No, wait. Or you're going to be doing this deal. No, man, I'm really sick. I'm not going to be able to make it in today, right? These should be outlawed. on the lakes. Should be a sign at the gate when you drive in that says you can't bring these darn things. Right under the sign that says that boats should not have speakers that cost more than they do. Anybody here on a wakeboard boat? Okay, good. Them damn things ought to be outlawed too. All right, we got that out of the way. No, but what's going to happen is you hang the cell phone up, you pick your backlash out, you get your sandwich and your soda out of the cooler, and you're going to do this deal. Oh, I got one. Good job, you finessed that one. What'd you do? You finally slowed down and got that jig dragging along the bottom as the boat drifted along. That fish swam over and ate it. The next thing you're going to do after you take that fish off the hook, throw that jig back out, and go back to fishing like this. Because you're excited. Got to slow down. Wintertime fishing, deep water fishing, it's all about getting slow, reading your meters. I'll watch individual fish on my depth finder drop straight down on top of them and catch them. Very, very easy to do. And I'm not running $1,000 electronics. I'm running $400, $500 Lowrance X17s on my new boat over there right now. So I mean, that's, you don't have to have a $1,000 depth finder to see a fish. Jig fishing, guys, very, very important to how it's a big tool to put in your box when you're planning on fishing spotted bass and planning on fishing in the wintertime. How many of you grew up fishing with a Rapala or a Rebel minnow? Guys, do some of that? A couple of you. Well, a Rapala or a Rebel minnow, we always threw out something like this, and we'd throw it out and we'd fish it on the surface, right? You just kind of twitch it along the surface. You guys remember when Countdown Rapalas came out? Now we can fish a lot deeper because now it was a foot. If you do it, I'm catching you. That has hooks. The union fish, it's okay. Hot. Countdown Rapalas, my goodness, we can fish a lot deeper water. Well, that's all the jerkbait technique really is this little bait right here. Imitates a pond smelt. This is a Lucky Craft Stacy 90. Okay? How many of you guys own a Lucky Craft bait? How many of you told your wife they cost $3.99? Oops, blew that gig, didn't I? All right, well. Now, they're about a $13 crankbait, but they're perfect. They come out of the box perfect. I do swap the hook out. I put a little bigger hook on my Stacy. This is a Stacy 90, and it imitates a pond smelt very well. If I reel that bait back straight to me, it doesn't do a heck of a lot. But what I'm trying to do now in the springtime with this bait is I'm trying to make it imitate an injured bait fish. Little short, quick jerks of the rod tip. And I know there's one little critter over here that's kind of chasing that bait around, but real short, quick jerks of the rod tip. This is a bait that you need to tie on and fish from the middle to the end of February when you're on the reservoirs, all the way through. It's a great bait in the summertime. And to be real honest with you, a lot of you die-hard Delta guys that are out there flipping a lot of Senkos and small plastics in the wintertime, this is what they're kicking your butt on around the marinas. I just want to break the news to you. They're catching a ton of fish around the Delta on a jerkbait. And it's just starting to come in. But a Stacy, a Pointer 100, a Pointer 78 from Lucky Craft, great baits, and baits you want to put in your tackle box. All right. We are going to talk a little bit about, all right, let's talk about topwater, then we'll get to swim bait, okay? We're going to talk a little bit about topwater fishing. How many of you started topwater fishing with a hula popper? Guys, how many of you still have a hula popper in your tackle box? Ah, a few of us, all right. All right. Jitterbug? Okay. All right, get this cut off here. The reason I asked how many of you started fishing with a hula popper, how many of you know what a hula popper is? A few more of you. You guys that still have hula poppers that fish with them, you remember the little card that came in the package with a hula popper? You remember what it said? It was a little piece of paper that came in the package with a hula popper that said, throw it out, let it set, let the rings disappear. Pop it. Let the rings disappear. Pop it. Let the rings disappear. Did I tell you folks I run a 250 horsepower outboard on the back of my Triton over there and a 109-pound thrust trolling motor? There isn't a heck of a lot of letting the rings disappear when I'm topwater fishing, okay? I'm a little too impatient for that kind of fishing. I'm going to use that topwater bait as my fish finder. I'm going to move that bait down the bank. This bait right here is one of my favorite, one of the best topwater baits that I can tie on. This is a Head and Super Spook. A lot of you remember Zara Spook. The Zara Spook, the original Zara Spook, had pretty much been discontinued and sent to the back of everybody's grandfather's tackle box. Nobody threw that bait anymore. Yes, this color's discontinued. You guys can't find that anymore. This is a great color spook. But the Zara Spook was pretty much discontinued until 1980 when Greg Hines won the U.S. Open on it. When Greg won the U.S. Open 1980, everybody kind of went back and went, what's a Zara Spook? At that point in time, Head came back. They brought the bait back in a lot of different colors. It had been discontinued. And now it is a mainstay for most bass fishers. The cool part about a Zara Spook, and any of you here have a Zara Spook in your tackle box. A few of you do, right? More of you than have a lot of other baits. The cool part about the Zara Spook is this is a big fish bait, okay? Now, because this is a big fish bait, I've got to modify it a little bit when I take it out of the package. I will never make a cast with the factory hooks that come on a Super Spook. They have little number 4 Excalibur treble hooks on that bait. I will not make a cast with this bait with number 4 hooks on it. I don't have to. I can put number 2 EWG Gamakatsus on the front and the back, and number 4 round bend Gamakatsu in the middle. Now, this has really turned into a fish catching deal because I got a lot bigger hook on it. I changed my split rings. I put a lot bigger split rings on it. I tie direct. Tie the bait direct to it. When I throw a Zara Spook out, guys, it doesn't do a heck of a lot. I mean, I throw it out and I reel it back to me. It's just going to come straight back to me. Doesn't do a heck of a lot of nothing. What I'm trying to make this look like is an injured bait fish, an injured trout, an injured anything. Oh, see, I got your name tag on. Good job. Good job. Captain James Smith, everybody, because he doesn't know who he is, you know. Fishes out in the bay, he gets lost a lot. So, hi, James. When I'm working this spook back now, little short, quick jerks of my rod tip, and I'm making that bait walk side to side to side to side. What's the biggest mistake most of us make topwater fishing? I'm working that bait back, pop, 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 and a fish blows up on it, right? I grew up fishing in a 14-foot aluminum boat. The absolute worst thing you could ever do was have a fish blow up on your topwater bait, set the hook, and the next thing you hear is the old man trying to get your topwater bait out of the top of his new hat. That is a bad day. Anybody ever done that? Come on. All right, a few more, yeah. Russ Snyder's has. Yeah, a few of us have done that, haven't we? That's a bad deal. You learn after you take that hat to the side of the dome a few times to wait till that fish has that topwater bait. Best advice you could get, because when I'm fishing that bait now, a lot of times big fish will miss this bait 2 or 3 times. Don't swing. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. Now, when am I going to fish a Zara Spook? Well, like every good topwater fisherman, I'm going to fish it in July and August, right? Wrong answer. Topwater fishing is going to start about the 1st of March on our reservoir. And you give me a good March, 1st of April, rainy, cloudy, nasty day without a lot of wind. Me and his Zara Spook are going to go catch some big spotted bass on lakes like Oroville, Shasta, Folsom, Collins. This bait is awesome. That early in the year. Anytime those fish are starting to move up. A few wives' tales about topwater fishing that a lot of us have come to believe is it's a technique that I fish the first 45 minutes of the morning and the last 45 minutes of the afternoon. Wrong answer. I'm going to throw this bait all day. This is a bait I can catch fish 12 noon, 1, 2, 3 o'clock. I did another tape for Western Bass TV. Tony and I went out in the middle of July on Folsom Lake, my home lake. We launched about at 10 o'clock for a reason. I wanted to show that you can catch topwater fish in the heat of the day all day long. We probably caught 30 fish on tape. The highlight of the tape was I caught one on the front hook, one on the back hook. Bounced them both on the carpet. That was cool. But we caught a bunch of fish that day throughout the heat of the day throwing topwater. So definitely something that you want to concentrate on. And topwater fishing in the summertime, if you're fishing a reservoir that has hazard buoys on it or rock pile buoys on it, now those buoys are there for a reason. They put those buoys out there to keep the water fleas from running on top of it. You guys know what water fleas are? Everybody here on a jet ski? All right, those are water fleas, okay? So we've now offended the wakeboard guys, trout fishermen, and jet skiers, okay? Pretty good thing we're at a fishing show, or I'd get beat up or need a little backup. Okay, they put those buoys out on those rock piles so the knuckleheads don't drive over the top of them because they have $45,000 boats, no depth finders. Now what they've just done is they've marked a rock pile for you to go throw a topwater bait on or drag a worm around. So when you're on your local reservoir in the summertime fishing, start looking for those marker buoys or those island top buoys. If you're out there in the wintertime, start making a note of some of that stuff that's on the bank so when that lake comes up, you're covering it. All right, let's talk about swim bait fishing. The hottest thing in the West right now. Probably one of the hottest things in the country. How many of you throw a swim bait much? Not many. How many of you are a little intimidated by this deal? How many of you run down to Parkway or Coyote, or you're going to go fish up at Berryessa, or maybe go to Clear Lake, or maybe go somewhere like that, and you see a guy on the bow of the boat casting what looks like a pair of Nikes, okay? And you're like, what in the heck is that guy doing? Well, he's throwing a swim bait, and he's fishing for a big fish. Seth Hendrickson and his trout cronies have planted trout for us in our lakes, kokanee for us in our lakes, and they hear that truck backing down the launch ramp, and all those little trout look just like this. This is a Huddleston trout that Ken Huddleston's designed out of Southern California. It is the hottest big fish bait in the West. It looks like a stalker trout. They have them that look like kokanee. They cost $40. Okay? This is not a bait you want to throw on a bait casting rod with 10-pound test line. This is not a bait that you want to put on your spinning rod with 8-pound test line. Notice I step up a little bit in tackle. We start talking about swim bait fishing. This is a Lamaglass big bait special rod. It's an 8-foot rod. Notice how long the handle is on this rod? That handle is made for throwing these baits two-handed, making long casts with it. I'm throwing a round reel. I've got away from my low-profile reels because I want big line capacity. Round profile, a big round reel. This is a Fluger Tryon. It's a great big reel, holds a lot of 20-pound test line. Now, there is no worse feeling in the world than to finally get that $40 Huddleston trout and go to the lake and make your first 8 or 9 or 10 casts with that Huddleston, and the next thing you see is your Huddleston flying out there with about that much line attached to it. I've done it twice this year. Well, one of them had about that much line because it broke its backlash, okay? But that's a total other story. So you'd think I'd learn and I'd just quit fishing them. Nah, it's a great deal. If you can fish a spinnerbait, you can fish a swim bait, all right? All I'm doing with this bait is I'm throwing that swim bait out, and it's just a slow swim back. Does that look like a trout? Yeah, not bad. But how many of you now, after seeing it swim through the tank, are convinced to go buy a $250 rod and reel and $40 bait? Suddenly the numbers dropped on us again, didn't they? I hate it when that happens. Okay, so how do we get started swim bait fishing? Well, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you another bait I throw just as much as a Huddleston. Some of you guys probably do a little saltwater fishing. Some of you guys shop at tackle stores that have great saltwater sections. You walk right by it and you never look at anything. This little bait right here is also a swim bait. This little swim bait I'm into bait and head for about $1.75. Now I got your interest, don't I? Suddenly we're not talking about $40 baits. You can throw it on a heavy action casting rod, 15, 17, 20-pound test lines. This little bait is manufactured in San Diego. It's made by a company called Fish Trap. Any of you guys ever throw a fish trap? Fish trap's pretty cool, but any of you guys that have thrown fish traps not want me to talk about this? This bait's awesome. This bait, I don't care, the Delta, Clear Lake, our reservoirs, cool little bait. It's just kind of like a little sassy shad tail, and I'm fishing it on a 1/2 ounce Strike King saltwater jig head. It's a little flathead head, saltwater flathead head, and it's got a 5/0 hook in it. I'm throwing it on 20-pound test line. Now, you guys are swim bait fishing with me, okay? You're not throwing a $40 bait. This is a great place to start. The fish traps, the storm baits, Berkley builds some great swim baits in their saltwater line, and all those baits are pretty inexpensive. And that'll get you started swim bait fishing and build your confidence as you start fishing it. But the fish trap, all I'm doing with it right there. When something knocks slack in the line, like they swam up and cut it with a pair of scissors, swing. You got them. Do not throw this on the outside edges of the tulies at Clear Lake. Do not throw this at the mouth of the canals at Clear Lake in the springtime. Don't throw this in Frank's track at the Delta on the outsides of the tulies in the springtime, okay? Just don't. It's not any fun, I gotta tell you. Those fish will chew this thing up. It is a lot of fun and a great way to get started swim bait fishing without tossing out a $40 bait, okay? How many of you with us today, how many of you have the same fishing line on your reels that you had, let's say, last year? Come on. How about 3 years ago? A few more of you. Okay? I know. Do yourself a favor while you're here today. Buy some fishing line. There's tons of good manufacturers here. But here's what's going to happen to you when you go fishing, because it happens to all of us. We go fishing, and we're out there fishing to jig along, and all of a sudden you're doing this deal, right? One of these. Oh, pulling the boat over the top of it. Oh, came loose. Good thing I was almost out of Bass Patrol jigs, and I keep going right down the bank fishing, right? Well, what's going to happen about 3 hours from now when I get thunk, set the hook, got him coming, it's a big one, oh my God, you're screaming for the net, you're screaming at the dog, you're screaming at your wife, trying to be quiet so the other boats in the area don't know you caught one. You get him right up to the boat, he makes a good hard run on you, what happens? Pow, he breaks you off. Oh! You come to this show next year. You come to Sacramento next week. You walk around the show, and as you're walking around the show, you go by the Strin booth, the P-Line booth, the Berkley booth, the Cajun Red booth, the Maxima booth, the Andy booth, the Gamma booth. I don't care what fishing line you had on that reel that day. And you nudge your buddy and you go, I'm never buying that stuff again. Remember that big one that broke me off at Clear Lake? Well, that line did not break because of the fish. That line broke because it's you. You broke that fishing line. Fish don't break fishing line, fishermen do. You put too much pressure on them, you don't retie enough, you don't check that line for knots, or God forbid, some of you are still using snap swivels. Any of you still using snap swivels? Come on. Oh, good. You guys have been here before then. Snap swivels make you a lazy angler. You cut this stuff off, change baits, you just change your whole Plano tackle box full of baits, and you never retie the knot, and you never get rid of that last few feet of line. I fish all Berkley product lines. I do throw some of our fluorocarbon and Vanish. The one line that I fish day in and day out is our big game line. It's inexpensive. You can buy it in quarter-pound spools for less than $10. Fishing line, no matter what you're fishing out of, a $40,000, $50,000 bass boat or a $49 float tube, the only thing separates you and a bass is about the same $8 worth of fishing line. Okay? Fishing line, very, very important, you guys. One product I do want to kind of show you, it's a really cool product. It's called Line and Lure Conditioner. I know Fisherman's Warehouse carries it. All I'm doing with this conditioner is I'm spraying it right on the spool of my reel. I spray it on at night when I'm going fishing, the night before, or I'll spray it on several times during the day. It takes a lot of the twist out of my line. It also makes the line much more lubricated so it casts better. Get a little more distance. If you're flipping, it lubricates the line when you're flipping so that line's not sticky in your hands. Great product, pretty inexpensive. Always, always, always have this on the deck of my boat. It is a great new product. Okay, I'm going to give you a shameless plug for a friend of mine. You guys have been here this long. You got to sit through it. My friend Chris Schaefer wrote this book. It's called The Definitive Guide to Fishing Northern California. Chris is at the booth right over here behind P-Line in the next aisle over. This book, he worked with myself, Gary Dobbins, Dave Rush, Randy Pringle, a lot of the top pros. Every lake in Northern California, you can't find a lake. Well, besides Indian Valley, we found out we didn't get that in there. But you're not going to find a lake in this book that's not there. Gives you phone numbers, campsites, a little bit about the lake, what's in it. Stop by and visit Chris at his booth and take a look at the book. It's awesome, and we're proud to be involved in doing that with Chris. Guys, I really appreciate you spending part of your day with me. I had an opportunity here to maybe help you out with a little bit of your fishing. If you see that big Thompson's Toyota Mercury Triton boat on the water, stop by and tell me where they're biting. I need all the help I can get, all right? I'm going to be here throughout the show. I'm going to be hanging out over in the Galaxy Marine Triton boat booth. Stop by. I've got my personal new Triton X2 out there. Let me show you the best bass boat on the market, folks. You guys enjoy the rest of your day here at the show, and hey, we're just happy as heck you came. You guys want to check this out later? It'll be on westernbass.com, and I want to thank Tony for doing that with us as well. But you guys have a great day here at the show. My name's Kent Brown. Listen to Ultimate Bass.
All right, thanks, Kent. That's Kent Brown of Ultimate Bass.